am personally not entertaining any of the conspiracy theories that are going around when it comes to the Lindsay Clancy case. I have not really talked about this case because I have just been actively watching it, but with watching everything unfold, it is hard not to get completely engulfed in what is happening not only in the courtroom, but also what is happening online. If you have been following this case at all, you would know that there are tons of theories going around, and I don't want to discredit anyone for having those theories. However, I do find a lot of them defamatory against specifically Patrick Clancy in this entire situation. I want to be very clear that at the very least, he may have been a negligent husband. I don't think that we can argue that people have marital issues, or maybe husbands and wives don't help their partners the way that they should be helping them. But at most, he was a very good and faithful husband, and he walked in to one of the most traumatic moments of his entire life when his wife took the lives of their 3 children. So because I've decided that I'm going to take most of what is happening in the courtroom at face value, I thought I would just challenge some of the questions that I have for those who do believe in a lot of these theories. The first thing I want to challenge is those who say they believe that Patrick is the one who did it. Now, my question is, if you think that she has a very good defense lawyer, do you really not believe that he would use that to his advantage to not only help his client, but this entire court case would be a completely different court case that we are currently watching? Lindsay has actively admitted that she is guilty, that she did this, and she takes full responsibility for doing so. So let's entertain it for a minute. Do you not believe that the police would have fully vetted Patrick Clancy? Do you not think that the first person that is typically your prime suspect is going to be the spouse in the situation? Now, it seemed very clear from what we are seeing in the courtroom that police and everybody on scene felt as though Lindsay was the one who did this, but they had to fully vet Patrick to be able to get a full scope of what happened in that home that night. The next thing I want to bring up is the timeline, this imaginary timeline that people keep trying to fill in voids where they think Patrick would have had the opportunity to do this. It is stated that his phone was actively pinging along the drive to CVS, 3V restaurant, back towards his home. It did not ping at his home until he reached his home at 6:09 p.m., which would have given him about a 55-minute run time from the time he left his home to the time that he got home. The next thing I want to state is, do you guys not believe that the medical examiner didn't look at the children, the time of death, and then correlate that to when Patrick was said to be at these locations? Now, a lot of people are focused on Lindsay, and I think there's a lot at play there because of the weather, because of how cold it was, because of what she had endured. People are saying the timeline doesn't make sense. So let's nix that, because a lot of this is not going to make sense. I think people want to make sense of it, which is why we have so many of these theories. But if we go back inside the home, the medical examiner and anybody on the teams, the forensic teams, the police, the investigators, everybody who is looking at this case, they are going to be able to give you a very detailed and mostly accurate timeline of how long it was from the children and the time that they passed. And those things prove that Patrick's alibi and his timestamps of where he said he was matched. Now, as far as Patrick Clancy doing this, if the prosecution is trying to prove that Lindsay Clancy had a motive to actually and knowingly take the lives of her 3 children, do you also not believe that they would be using that to their advantage in this case as well? This would give everything that they could possibly need as a motive, and that Lindsay Clancy was able to do this methodically, and not only that, but calculated, which is what they are trying to prove right now. If they knew that Patrick Clancy had anything to do with why she took the lives of her children, and it was a calculated, very much sane action that she took, they would be using that. Don't you think? And we have the shoe theory. A lot of people are talking about how they believe that Patrick Clancy's shoes appear to be different in the video from CVS to the video at the 3V restaurant. This is basically saying that you don't believe that the footage that the police and these detectives and the investigators, and not only that, but the lawyers in charge of this case, have not looked at thoroughly all of the information, all of the footage, and state that they believe that he is also wearing the same clothes. This has also been stated, that both lawyers have explicitly agreed that what he was wearing in both of these locations matched. So again, this would mean that multiple eyes were looking at this and they missed the shoes. I just can't see it. I think it makes more sense that the footage that we are seeing is not very clear. The lighting, the fluorescence, all of the things inside of a CVS could be reflecting, or in the restaurant could be reflecting in a very different light, but that he is absolutely wearing the boots that he states he takes off when he gets to the home. But I do want to throw this in here because if we're throwing out theories, the theory that I had is, what if he did have a second pair of shoes in his car? Maybe he had those tennis shoes in his car. It was snowing. Maybe he stepped into a really big snow pile and he was like, dang, my feet are getting wet. I'd really like to take these shoes off. And at the restaurant, there's a path cleared and I know I can walk in without getting my feet wet. It sounds silly, but that's exactly it, is that you can try to make sense of a theory. You can come up with anything to try to make sense of that. And let's say that during the investigation, they then found those same shoes inside of his car, which is why he took his shoes off to go into the restaurant and then put his boots back on to walk through the snow at their home. I'm just saying, we can throw out theories left and right. Where I will conclude is, I think a lot of people just want to make sense of a situation that doesn't make sense. But I think that there are a lot of facts that have been proven, and people are choosing to ignore those facts because they want there to be some more theatrical approach to this case than there actually is. If we just take it at face value, we know for a fact that Lindsay Clancy has admitted that she took the lives of her 3 children. And it's not about finding out what happened behind closed doors at the Clancy household, whether that be because her and Patrick had marital issues or whether he was a negligent husband. But really what it comes down to is trying to figure out if she premeditated taking the lives of her 3 children, or if she was under a postpartum psychosis and was not in her sane mind. Those are the questions that I would challenge to all the people who continue to follow the theories over the facts. But I want to hear from you. If you want to challenge them, please put them in the comments. I think everybody has a right to their opinions on this case, and I'm curious about yours. Let me know what you think down in the comments.